On Business Express, the big story is about Anshu Jain at the helm of Deutsche Bank, as he's been announced the co-CEO along with Jürgen Fitchen. He's going to take over from May 2012 for a period of 5 years, and he becomes the first non-native German speaker to head the bank. That is the story we're tracking.
Two to replace one. Anshu Jain and Jürgen Fitchen have been appointed as co-CEOs of Deutsche Bank, replacing Joseph Ackermann, who led Germany's largest bank for a decade. India-born Anshu Jain becomes the first non-native German speaker to head the flagship bank of Europe's largest economy, ending speculation that his nationality was in the way of his rise to the top. In 1995, he left Merrill Lynch to join Deutsche Bank's hedge fund and derivatives unit. Anshu Jain's investment banking division delivered 80% of the bank's total profits. At $17 million, he was the top earner at Deutsche Bank last year, earning even more than the CEO Joseph Ackermann.
Between Anshu and Jürgen, they will, I'm sure, sit down and think about how they will run the business and discuss that with the board. And again, we have 10 months to go until they assume, so I think there's plenty of time for lots of debates to happen over the next couple of months.
About a year ago, Deutsche Bank organized a 13 billion euro rights issue to buy Deutsche Post Bank. So the fact now that there are going to be joint managing directors of Deutsche Bank with Anshu Jain as one of them makes an awful lot of sense.
An avid cricket fan, Jain has a loyal following among his staff, internally known as Anshu's Army. The father of two keeps a low profile, strolling into conferences alone with his backpack and an iPad. Jain is now expected to move his residence to Frankfurt, where last but not the least, Anshu is likely to brush up his German. Bureau Report, ET Now.
Well, Joseph Ackermann could not be out of the picture entirely. He could be taking up a senior managerial role at Deutsche Bank in a couple of years, as Edward Taylor of Reuters in Frankfurt reports.
Elevating Joe Ackermann to the chairman position and putting in a co-CEO in the form of Germany head Jürgen Fitchen has raised the prospect of there being three CEOs now, when there were, in fact, when there was only one beforehand. So, while the other thing that is today's earnings also show that investment banking may no longer be the real force going forward for Deutsche's earnings. You know, where at one point they used to make up 90% of the group's profits. Today we're seeing, you know, almost half were made by other parts of the business, and we even had a warning that the Eurozone sovereign debt crisis could lead investment banking earnings to drop to the point where they have to drop their own 2011 profit targets. So it's kind of a mixed blessing today. Anshu Jain has won, but it's not a sort of outright victory that many people had expected.
Let's take you to another analyst. Ralph Silver, founder of Silver Research, joins us from London. Ralph, hi. We just heard from Frankfurt that this could actually be a blessing, yes, for Anshu Jain, but there could be three CEOs in one sense. How do you react to the way the news pans out for investors?
I think it's reasonable news. I think that the fact that they're moving on or progressing forward is a good step forward, and from an economic perspective, I think the bank's going to do well for it. I do, however, question the viability of having two CEOs, especially in an environment where regulatory change requires almost instantaneous decision-making. Any kind of compliance between CEOs or any kind of fighting between CEOs will slow down the bank from reacting. So I think this is a viable and a very solid short-term solution, but I do not believe that this is a good, solid, long-term solution.
Okay, so that is the big question. So you're basically saying that decision-making could be a concern when you've got two people leading. What do you anticipate could be the concerns of analysts in the medium term that you're referring to?
I am very worried as to who's going to call the shots, but I feel a lot better the fact that Ackermann is sticking around. In fact, I believe the reason he's sticking around is to play referee, to make sure if these two guys go at each other, that he can stand in the middle and get things straightened out. And I think while he's there, it'll probably operate in that way. But there's absolutely no way that two egos like the two guys that are actually being put in charge are going to work friendly or going to work well together for an extended period of time. That's just highly unlikely.
Okay, thanks for your views, Ralph, there, joining us from London with a brief check on what Anshu Jain's appointment would mean for analysts and investors. Remember, tonight we're discussing the rise of another global Indian at 9 p.m. We've got three special guests. We've got Rana Talwar, who was the first Indian to head a bank ever across the world, which was Standard Chartered.